The 8th episode of Season 3 of Yellowjackets showed Shauna unleashed in her most primal state when she bit Melissa's arm and ripped a chunk of flesh off, telling her to eat it or she would tell Melissa's family her deepest, darkest secrets.
Eat it, or I'll fucking tell your family exactly who you really are.
And on the note of primal, one of the major themes throughout Yellowjackets is the connection between each of the survivors and their animal familiar, or spirit animal. We see this connection with several characters, such as Misty and birds, Thaisa and dogs, or Jackie with rabbits. Interestingly, in episode 8, Shauna had multiple visions or hallucinations, both in which she saw moths. But not just any moths. These are the Death's Head hawk moth, and they have a ton of symbolic importance, which we will discuss in this video. Shauna has always grasped onto any shred of Jackie's memory, which includes her love for rabbits. But ironically, early on in the series, Shauna slaughters a rabbit in her garden and makes a chili out of it for her family. So her love for rabbits has a sort of double meaning, just like her relationship with Jackie. There's a love-hate dynamic going on. However, Shauna seeing visions of these moths is far more appropriate for her personality, so let's get into more of the details on what these moths mean and where we might have seen them before. Shauna has a dream of her younger self working in a grocery store. She's living a very mundane life, and I love the sign over her shoulder that says celebrating 40 years, which just seems like an extra emphasis on where she is in life. As she zones out while scanning groceries, we hear Jackie's voice telling her she's already scanned that. Shauna says it's easier this way, and Jackie brings her to attention when she calls her shipman. Shauna tells her she hates it when she calls her that, and she also realizes that she's scanning butchered human body parts packaged as grocery store meats, as well as a couple of boxes of hot chocolate. Hot chocolate is significant in Yellowjackets as a comforting food of the underworld, and this is the drink Jackie consumes during her death dream in the cabin. Shauna asks Jackie if this is really all her life becomes, and Jackie asks her how she should know. She's dead. Shauna killed her. Suddenly they hear a scratching, and the lights start to flicker, and Shauna looks over her shoulder to see many moths slowly filling up the fluorescent light fixture overhead. Jackie watches Shauna's reaction, saying,
They're drawn to the light. Should have known better, don't you think?
The light becomes so filled with the flapping moths that it cracks and explodes, and next we see adult Shauna wake up in her van outside of Melissa's house. She had driven through the night to get there and parked outside to case the joint out. Later in the episode, and during the teen timeline, the group finally had hope that they might find their way home and were packing their bags to hike out of there. Melissa was upset with Shauna because she hadn't stayed with her when she was shot by Cody's arrow, and the group took off to hunt him down. Shauna plays the emotionally manipulative boyfriend and wooed Melissa back to her after telling her she still planned on killing him for shooting her. Melissa began to ask Shauna what she planned to do when they got home and told her she just wants to do everything she can. As she yammers on about her hopes and dreams, Shauna sort of mentally recoils, and suddenly she sees a moth fluttering around their hut. As she watches the moth, with its well-known skull design, Shauna sees flashes of the dream she had in the grocery store, of the moths fluttering in the fluorescent light. What is especially interesting about this scene, and Shauna seeing those sort of flashes of the other vision, is it creates a question of when the grocery store dream originally occurred. Shauna seemed to have the dream in the adult timeline when the dream cuts to her waking up in the van, but how could teen Shauna have flashes of a dream she hadn't even had yet? This leads me to believe that the grocery store dream is most likely a recurring dream that Shauna has, and clearly she's haunted enough by it that it's affecting her decision to return to the real world. Moths are a symbol of death, destruction, the afterlife, and transformation. They're also a metaphor for anything that gradually and silently eats, consumes, or wastes anything. In the Bible, moths are a symbol of destruction and decay and the impermanence of earthly possessions. Native American and Celtic cultures view the moth as a messenger or mediator from the spirit world. They're also associated with secret or hidden knowledge, as they are nocturnal creatures of the moon. Some rare species of moths are known to drink tears. However, the death's head moth is better known to feed on honey. In fact, they're called bee robbers, and they're known to mimic bees to enter their hives and use their long proboscis to access honey stores. They use pheromones to disguise their scent, and they also emit a high-pitched squeaking sound similar to the queen bee, which can deter the other bees from attacking them, which they do by biting the moth, or the classic yellowjacket trick of gathering in a group around the moth, buzzing and vibrating to generate heat until they suffocate their victim. The connections between bees and yellowjackets are clear, while still setting Shauna apart from the others by her connection to the moths. Remember, she doesn't even like soccer. Also, I thought the fact about the moths who feed on the tears of others was a pretty good connection to Shauna, because she's a miserable person, and she wants everyone else to be just as unhappy as she is. Silence of the Lambs is a story about serial killers and cannibalism, and I probably should have drawn a connection to Yellowjackets a lot sooner, but here we are. One of the villains of the story is Buffalo Bill, who targets women to make a suit from their skins. He believes he is a transsexual, whose transition is complete once he finishes the suit, but clearly that's not how that works. He leaves a death's head moth pupa in the mouths of his victims, a creature he feels connected to because of its symbol of transformation, but also as a symbol of death by the human-like skull design on the moth's wings. The police officer hunting down Buffalo Bill consults their friendly local cannibal, Hannibal Lecter, for advice on the case. It's a major psychological thriller that was very popular in the 90s. And clearly there are some connections here with Yellowjackets. If we recall back in season 2, Shauna threatens the chop shop guy by asking him if he's ever peeled the skin from a human corpse, and obviously the cannibalism connections to Hannibal Lecter. But not only that, Shauna is going through a transformation of her own, and it's affecting her in both the teen and adult timelines. Shauna has this dream right before she breaks into Melissa and Alex's house to confront her about the tape. But Melissa had sent the tape with the intention for Shauna to put the past behind her and to heal from their experiences in the wilderness. Melissa had heard that Lottie had started a cult and the other survivors had joined, and when she heard about Natalie's death, she believed they were making sacrifices again. I mean, was she wrong? So Shauna is faced with the chance to turn a new leaf and try to do some healing. But in the end, she chose the Shauna we know and kind of love. Kind of, at this point. The secrets of the past still control Shauna and her decisions, and keeping their secrets is the only way to make sure that they're safe. In the teen timeline, the tensions between Shauna and Nat are coming to a head, and we saw back in episode 6 that after Nat took Coach's life into her own hands, she forfeited her right to lead the group by going rogue. Lottie named Shauna as their new leader, which the group reluctantly accepted for like 5 whole minutes until the frog scientist showed up. Now things are a bit muddled, and it's finally time for war in the wilderness. In a clip from episode 9, Shauna and Nat face off, and in the synopsis for episode 10, we learn there is a new Queen's Court. So things are definitely escalating over the next couple of episodes, and Shauna will go through a transformation of her own.
You sure you even know how to use that, little girl?
Don't worry. My boyfriend taught me.
Finally, Jackie mentions the moths being drawn to the light, and they should know better. This seems to be in reference to the girls in the wilderness and their desire to get out of there. Travis says, "We've been in hell," showing many of the group view the wilderness as a very dark place, full of death, cannibalism, discomfort, and danger. Only the few who don't have something to look forward to back home wish to stay there. Ty losing Van, Lottie being labeled mentally unwell, and Shauna returning to the reality where her best friend is really dead. And not only that, her baby is buried out there, which makes it even more difficult to leave. However, moths drawn to the flame is often seen as a suicidal act, reinforcing the theme of darkness and fleeting hope. The moths may be a warning to Shauna that the group being drawn to the light might draw them into danger by wandering off into the woods with a stranger right on the cusp of winter. Jackie's apparition has appeared as a warning to Shauna on many occasions, so this would be fitting for her to appear once again as a warning to the group to keep them out of danger and guide them as their captain.
She's not the captain.
Neither are you.
Yeah, because she's fucking dead.
Guys!
For the record, this video was an exercise in facing my fears because I really don't like moths and I was absolutely terrified of Silence of the Lambs. Granted, I was young when that movie came out, but it really messed with me. I was a sensitive child. And honestly, moths, why are you always flying so erratically? Gah! But I will admit that this was by far my favorite Jackie flashback dream sequence so far in the series. It was just so good. So I guess I can forgive the moths haunting the scene, even though I would absolutely die if that happened in real life. But those are just my thoughts, so let me know yours in the comments below. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Check out the Monday Morning Murder Podcast live each Monday here on the channel, discussing the latest episodes of Yellowjackets and much more. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Is this really what my life is gonna look like?